All right, what is up, everybody? I got with me today the legendary Austin Hale. This guy is on fire, and he's about to spit some wisdom, some gold for everybody here. So, what's up, Austin? How you doing?
Hey man, I'm doing great. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on here. Happy
Yeah,
to
yeah, I'm
share.
looking forward to it. You were teaching me something the other week about like practical change,
Mm,
about how if you want, how did you phrase it? It was like if you want to change something you can do the necessary like self-forgiveness and everything, and it's kind of like you pop a balloon. Now all of that can release, but if you
mm,
don't actually go and change your action, it will reinflate and it will actually magnify and get even worse. So
yeah.
I'm sure there are people listening to this episode that have some areas in their life where they want to change. They might even be doing the self-forgiveness, and some people use techno-tutor, doing things to really attempt to change that, but they don't actually take it to completion, and then they end up even worse off with more pressure because
Mm,
it's like they're not actually doing the right thing. So,
mm,
yeah. So
mm.
that was blowing my mind, man. When you shared that with me, I was like taking inventory of my whole life.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's interesting because a lot of us we've heard the statement that knowledge not applied is like knowledge that's not even known. But
Mm.
how come we're not all applying it? Right. And so it's going back to taking action and what our programming is. But yeah, that was really interesting for me because when I was looking at my life and what I was experiencing, I noticed that there was a lot of things stored in my head, whether it was tasks to do, conversations to have, people to reach out to, and even for people that are even staying at home, moms and whatnot. Maybe you need to clean something in a particular room that you just haven't been doing. And so there's a lot of things that are in our head. And so when we think about it, notice it, maybe you do your self forgiveness or you do your writing for some of y'all that have the tools that we do, you're doing that, but then it's releasing it within you. And so to not actually take the corrective action and apply that, you're just amplifying it within you because every day that you're seeing it or speaking to that person, but you're not having that conversation, you're judging yourself more internally, and then you're not actually completing the cycle or making it come full circle. And yeah, once we've been doing that, Giselle noticed a bunch of things and whatnot as well. And I've noticed things within my own life. And by doing that, it's cleared up a lot of pressure internally in the head, both physically and just mentally. So,
Hell yeah. Yeah, doing this process takes balls. It's like it's not comfortable.
no,
But
no,
no,
no.
but in life, it's like, what are the options? We either take responsibility, live out a purpose, go like create wealth and all that and impact, or we just sit back and fucking slowly die. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's so anyway, we're gonna get into a lot. We're gonna kind of jump around because I want to get into some of your story. I know you've been doing a lot of really great things out in California and just in general. We were both at the Self Perfected event. And
Yeah.
man, when you got on stage, I was like, this guy is destined for this. This is great. so,
Appreciate
so one, I wanted to just dive in though, so people who maybe don't know you or haven't heard of you can get a little grasp on like, who are you? So you're married and you got a genius daughter, Luna. Can you share a little bit about right when you came into the Techno-Tutor self-perfected world,
it.
how you were challenged by some of the guys in the group to look at really getting married? Like,
Yeah.
can you walk us through that and what happened from that?
Yeah. So one of the groups that we have within our men's call is the self leaders. And I realized very quickly that I wasn't leading. And I wanted to think that I was, but I had to be self honest, one of the principles that we live by. And then another one taking responsibility. And I wasn't doing that to the fullest extent, the ultimate responsibility. And I was just being a follower of my pre-programming, which wasn't best. And I mean, even Giselle, she was following suit with her pre-programming as well. And so for me, I was never taught to be a leader. I never had a male influence growing up. Like my dad wasn't around, and I never had that programmed within me to know how to lead, to know how to take charge. And I'm willing to speak up, and sometimes that's been good for me in my life. Sometimes it's been bad, but within this instance, I was quickly confronted with what was best for all, and that was to get married. I'm like, nah, man, it's just a piece of paper. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, yeah, like, how do you see getting married is actually best for all? Like from your own understanding.
Yeah, so from my own understanding and what I've experienced thus far, it's created a lot more stability for us that I simply couldn't see beforehand. The culture has imprinted us with it's just a piece of paper. Oh, you guys are together. I knew people that had just been together for years and years and years without being married, been together since high school, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Nah, man, we're just going to be together forever. And why not get married? And subconsciously, we have these back doors, and our partner thinks that we could have these back doors. And so it made us more stable in a way that we just simply couldn't see yet. And what I've learned a lot from being in the group and personally experienced is all of these things that weren't on my radar. I thought my radar was big. I thought my perspective, I thought what I knew so far was great. It was better than people in my family. It just, you're at a level and you're doing more than the people that are at that level. And then you go to the next level and you realize that you are the bottom 20% of that next level. And so joining the group, being a part of the men's calls, even the self-perfected calls on Fridays, I realized, okay, now I have a lot more to learn within this next level. And so, yeah, for us, it's being married has provided a lot more stability. Being married has allowed us to work together even more so as a unit and being teachable. I was thinking I knew what was up. I thought that I knew what was right. I thought I knew what was best for my family, but it was ultimately just what was best for me within my own self interest. And so being willing to take that step, ask more questions, have more conversations. Now we're married, and it also has provided stability for our daughter Luna. Seeing us married, seeing us have the ring, seeing us work together, and it's subconsciously showing her what a marriage is, and that's what's best.
Wow, that's so cool. And one other point to add on that is like you said, it's back doors. And people will subconsciously have these back doors because we've been so programmed to not want to commit to stuff.
Yeah.
And especially for Giselle and for the ladies out there, on such a deep level, women are programmed with like, once there's the ring and it's official, they can actually like relax.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like a lot of guys out there, if you're not married, consider you're not even really seeing the best expression of your female partner as well as yourself.
Yeah.
Because on a very deep level, like women especially, I can't blame them. Like with the quality of a
Yeah.
lot of guys nowadays, at least at this point in 2023, we're working on changing this, but a lot of guys out there just suck. Like they just want to play video games. They don't want to take responsibility. They don't really care about anything. So of course, I see how a woman would be like, well, I can't depend on that guy. I gotta work. I got it. So they stay in that masculine expression. And then the guy is just being weak. So then the woman ends up being like the mom, and then the boy, the man is like a boy, and it's just this nasty dynamic. And of course they break up, or they
Yeah.
just live a very pissed life, and there's no passion or anything. So
Yeah.
so shout out to you for just seeing it, and like that's what I love specifically from how you've approached the group is like you see it, you might question it because you want to understand it. But then
Yeah.
once you understand it, you're like, okay, cool, this is great. And then you get it, but then you support other people to do it too. So that's
Yeah.
another part I want to get into now is it's one thing to just change your own life,
Hmm.
right? And a lot of people, that's also then their self-interest. But then
Right.
you went and then supported Jewel and Gracie and their
Hmm.
son Sonny.
Hmm.
Talk about that. Like, why not just be good for you and Giselle? Why'd you have to go share this with other people?
Yeah. No, you're right, and it's been a part of me to share information, share things that we're involved with, just share in general. But I realized now, I mean, from being a part of so many different mindset groups and courses and like inner circle type of groups and things like that, like there wasn't actual stability across the board for people. And so I had issues actually supporting and standing behind everything that those groups were saying that they lived by or that they stood for. But within this, it's made sense. I mean, the other people that are in the group, we can't find flaws, we can't find things that contradict each other. And so I was like, okay, this is where I need to start sharing everything that we have. This is where I need to start actually supporting and standing up for, even more so that I've done for other things in the past. Like, this is right. And just being around Jewel, being around Gracie, seeing that they have a son, noticing how I had been impacted, I mean, a few months before, and seeing kind of where he was at, I supported him with it. I challenged him on the point. Hey, man, let's talk about it. What's your perspective on it? But he had divorce in his family, and so he grew up with that. And so, what did you grow up with is something that the viewers can think back on, you know, and that leads to your programming. My mom was single and she got pregnant by a married man. And so within his DNA resonance, it's okay to cheat in your relationship. It's okay to be unfaithful. It's okay to be with multiple women because he had multiple marriages before he was with my mom. And so my mom, multiple boyfriends. And then she didn't actually get married until I was 14 or 15. And so seeing that and noticing my pre-programming and that wasn't best and how it impacted my relationships, how it impacted my view on being a man, being in a relationship with a woman, the male and female dynamic and roles and like gender roles, it was skewed in the wrong direction. And so seeing that within Jewel as well and having like commonalities within both of us, yeah, supported him. And then they ended up getting married earlier this year. And so that was awesome to be a part of, and just seeing them there and then reading the principles that we stand by, like as part of his vows at his marriage, that was really really cool. And then even seeing Nina and Abel and whatnot at the event, like
Yeah,
so cool, man.
so talk about that too, because now you don't stop. Now it's like you get the point, and now
Yeah,
you're out there literally changing people's lives. So
yeah,
share a little bit about Nina and Abel too.
yeah. So to touch on that briefly, I mean, seeing how it's benefited us, and then seeing the actual change and progression in our relationship, and then seeing that within Jewel and Gracie as well, you know. And a lot of times, especially for the viewers, like if you're watching this and you're wanting to do something new, you're wanting to get involved with the tools that we have, you're wanting to just take a step and taking on more responsibility in your own life, but it's not something that you've done before. Like, to be honest, most of us are wanting to accomplish, and the goals and dreams that we have aren't what our parents did. We're trying to do things that are bigger, more expansive, and take
Yeah.
more responsibility than what our parents did. So if you're trying to do that, you're not even programmed for it. So you have to be honest with yourself about that. Like, you're literally not even programmed to do what you're supposed to do. And so with seeing this, seeing how it impacted Jewel and Gracie, and then having a conversation with Nina and Abel for like 2 hours by the pool after one of our sessions, I was just supporting them with the point. Not just, hey, you guys should get married, but it's like, let's talk. Like, it was nice to get to know more about them, what they were both going through individually, and then what they both wanted, the result that came with getting married and making that step. But they had these blockages that were allowing them to, that were was allowing Abel to do that, and then like do that by asking the question, but then also by preventing Nina, her program was preventing her from effectively supporting him to make that move. And so, both on a male and female perspective, look at your parents and how they supported each other. Or even if you didn't have that, you literally don't have a baseline of what that means. And so, I never even had a baseline of what it means to be a husband or even to be a dad. And so, to be a part of the group and be willing to be teachable and listen to other folks, that's helped me out tremendously. And then the process, neutralizing the energies, programming myself for new things, obviously that's helped as well. But simply just being around other people, that has literally caused us to level up in a lot of other areas. But within this, about the marriage aspect, yeah, Nina and Abel had a great conversation with them by the pool. And Abel, literally after we were done, when they went back to their room, they were eating pizza, and Abel just, you know what? Nothing would really change if we were married. We would just we would be married, but we would have to take more responsibility. We would be together. I would be pushing through this main like wall that I have right now. But I love you. I'm gonna be with you. You want to be with me. We plan on being together forever. It just makes sense. Let's do it. And Nina was just, yes, all right, And so it was, you were there when they announced that they were gonna get married. It was just so cool. And it's about being teachable and surrounding yourself with other folks that are actually moving themselves, because a lot of people are just busy, but being busy and actually making progression are two totally different things. So
Yeah. Oh man. I'm so glad you brought that up too with like how Nina responded to it because
mhm.
like I was saying earlier, women on a very deep level really want that. They want that committed guy who's there because then they can actually then flourish like as a wife and as a mom. Um, and the other thing, which I think you were there with Avery and Kim on the last day at the pool, well, on the Sunday, and
Mhm.
how they were supporting a guy in our group. I'll keep his name confidential for now, but to look at like his wife wants kids, and he
Yeah,
just was basically just afraid of it. It's like that firewall.
yeah, I was
But
there for that. Yeah, that was great.
how Kim said it, or Avery, one of them, they both agreed with it though. It's like it was pretty blunt, but there's like, yeah, you're abusing her. Like
Mhm.
women so badly deep down want to have kids. Not every woman, I know that, but in general, women really do want kids.
Yeah.
And they've been so sold on this idea of just rise the corporate ladder, do that till you're at least like 30 or something. And then maybe you can look at settling down and then having kids. But at that point, sometimes it's too late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And I mean, it's allowed Giselle to, I mean, express herself so much more, to be able to be here now with Luna at home helping raise her. I mean, it's allowed her to just be more open in general. And she never had the effective leadership from her father. And so through the community, I mean, having the women's group, that's amazing. I mean, Jess has helped her, your wife Jess has helped her out a lot with just different conversations, and Katie and the different women in the group, Christine. But the moving forward and taking the leadership role is not part of the culture today. And so for people to do that typically steps out of their pre-program as well, because we haven't been taught and programmed to take responsibility. We've just been taught to just let somebody else do it for us, whether you're working a job and you're letting somebody else have responsibility for your finances. You're going to school and somebody else is dictating your schedule. And so a lot of people, they want to do new things. So you want to start a business, you got to create your own schedule. You want to start a business, you got to create your own money, but then also your own financial schedule and how you're going to plan it out, and just all of that, right? We don't need to go down the rabbit hole, but we've been bred to not have to take responsibility. And so then also, the self-esteem, confidence is just down and down from being in school and just being a part of the culture. So guys are just afraid to make those decisions. They're afraid to fail. They're afraid to, what their partner is going to think of them, and just judging themselves. So being part of the group, hell yeah, man, that's helped me out a lot with all of those things. So
Yeah. So, okay. What do you see as well with Luna now? So like you've been like a rock star dad and Giselle rock star mom. Like awesome. How do you see that's been so far? And then also, where does that lead? Because I'm sure a lot of people listening to this either have kids or want to have kids. And this is like unlike anything else out there. So, would you mind sharing about that?
yeah, so Luna will be 2 years old next month, late next month. And she's awesome. I mean, the trajectory that she's on, we're not sure really what all she's going to do, because she's going to be capable of everything, maybe except for flying herself.
Yeah.
Like,
She can build a drone.
I know, right? So with that, it's pretty interesting because her pre-programming was literally the copy of my DNA, Giselle's DNA. And so early on, we saw her reacting to certain things in the same way that we would, or her react to me in the same way that Giselle would react to her dad. And so
Wow.
now, because we've been able to be with her on a regular basis here at home, but then also using the tools and then just properly assisting and supporting her, man, like her processing ability is amazing. Like, she amazes us on a regular basis. So for people who don't know, she knows all of her letters, integrating her numbers now. She knows handfuls of small words as well: mom, dad, Onyx, which is our dog's name, my name, Austin, Giselle, Bubba, which is what she calls Onyx, me, baby, all these things, right? But her processing ability to learn new things, this past week, this past week, we today's Thursday. This past week on Tuesday or Wednesday, Giselle, we made the decision to start potty training her. Now, Giselle has helped her poop on the toilet before. Giselle will sit on the toilet with her and she'll poop, but we have this separate little toilet for her. And so we decided, okay, we're going to stop putting the diapers on her and we're going to have her understand, okay, pee, and when you pee, that's the word, and you're going to go in this toilet. And a couple times she just peed on herself, and we're like, but she like did it. And then after she's like, pee, and so we're like, okay, that's fine. We'll go over here. So we'll sit her on, we'll bring her over to the toilet. This is where you pee, we'll wipe her off, clean her up. And then she started saying it and then coming over to the toilet. And then she started coming over to the toilet, saying it, and then not peeing until she got on the toilet. And then she still had a couple accidents. Well, you would call them an accident. She just peed, right? And then on Monday, she peed every time during the day in the toilet, saying pee.
Wow.
We were outside and she said pee, and she waited all the way until we got inside. Took
Wow.
her underwear off and sat her on the toilet. And so it's literally been less than 2 weeks, less than a week and a half, and she's peeing on the toilet. And then today she is pooped on the toilet. So she'll say poop and she'll go over there. And sometimes she'll say pee when she has to poop because the sensation is similar. So, and then she goes over and just sits on the toilet and does it. I mean, when she's getting overwhelmed now, she'll start to cry about something and she'll say, Daddy, this, or she'll say, Mama, that. And
Wow.
so originally she was just saying our names, and then we pick her up and she would point to whatever it is. But then now she's combining two things, So Daddy, this, that, Onyx, out, out, when that's out, right? Because our dog is well trained, and so he'll drop his ball, and so he'll drop his ball now, and she'll say out, out. She'll kind of say out, right? And her baby
Yeah.
talk,
Yeah.
and so she's putting two things together now,
Wow.
and she's very, very quickly learning. But that's how kids can be.
Yeah.
And now that we have the tools to actually support that, just using them for less than 10, 15 minutes a day, not a lot at all, she's growing and getting it and understanding more. And when we're doing workouts with her, she's doing the workouts. Like they literally, because they're in their natural learning ability, are just copying what we do. And so she's not watching shows or SpongeBob or anything like that I used to watch when I was growing up. She's just using the tools. I watched a couple of videos with her yesterday on YouTube about how a basketball is made and a rubber ball is made, because she's got a bigger like rubber ball that we kick around, and a baseball, a basketball, and a football, and a soccer ball. So we watched two of those 2 days ago and two of them yesterday. So those are like the educational videos she'll watch. But she's been amazing. We can, like, months and months ago, man, even when she was just starting to walk, we could say, Luna, okay, she would be playing with our dog and she'd be grabbing his ball and throwing it, and her hands would be kind of like slobbery, and I'd be like, okay, get a wipe and wipe off your hands. And she would go, we'd watch her, and she'd run into the bedroom, open up the wipe warmer, grab a wipe out, close the lid, wipe her hands off, throw it in the trash can, and come back. Even when she's done peeing, man, she takes the container out of the little toilet she has and carries it through our place all the way into the bathroom. Giselle dumps the pee in the toilet, and then they take the little baggie out and put it in the trash.
Wow.
She's able to do all of that. She's not even two. And so the main part is just being able to be there and assist and support her, because that's, some parents don't have that ability because of their time.
Mhm.
But when you're with your kids, how quality is the time that you're with them? Right? The time that, like, 2 hours of quality time is way more valuable than 4 hours of you're sitting there on your phone, you're doing something else, this and that. Like, you actually being there with them will go leagues beyond 2, 3, 4 times the amount of time spent with your children that you're just absent-minded. You're not even present. So we're present with her as much as possible.
Yeah. So some parents will see that and they'll be like, wow, that's cool. Like, and they're interested in that. But now you take it all the way. So I
Oh
know
yeah. Oh
at
yeah.
times, like you and Jewel, I know you are building a wholesales organization out there. You've been out doing sales meetings with people, just sharing this, even like door to door. Now, how does it feel knowing one, you can go knock on a door, find someone who's literally looking for this kind of thing, make basically 3 grand from that? And then also, how does it feel knowing you're doing that? And at the same time, now empowering your community so that your daughter, Luna, will grow up with a bunch of peers all around her, not just locally, but everywhere,
Mhm.
of kids that are at this level. Like, talk about that.
Yeah, that part is probably one of the most rewarding things because one of the local schools here just started putting litter boxes in the middle school because children are able to identify as cats. And so that's a whole nother topic, right? But what the children are being impulsed with now in the culture, because there's no restriction as to what they can see on social media and what's real and what's not and what's actually their best expression of themselves, because expression is a very broad term that can get skewed and thrown around a bunch of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And so to know that she has the most effective filter because she has an effective vocabulary and she's going to continue to build a more and more and more effective vocabulary, she's going to be able to turn to determine what's best and what's not. And it's not that I'm the dictator, but I'm just preparing her to be able to actually question things for herself out in public. And so being able to support the community with that as well, it's vital because for her to be able to come around other children that are doing the same thing, what can they build? What can they do? What can they create together? That's amazing. And even recently, there was a lady who got techno tutor, and she's a teacher. And her son's in the school, and he's been going through emotional things because the school, there's bullies in school. Every one of us knows that there's been bullies in school. There's
Yes.
peer pressure, distractions, impulsing. Like I said, there's litter boxes in schools now. Kids used to smoke in the bathroom when I was in high school, and then all the vapes and things like that are in schools now. And so to be able to create a community of effective children and a community of well educated children that can speak up for themselves, that can understand and determine what's best and what's not, and to actually build things together. And then to support the parents to become emotionally advanced, not just emotionally stable, because people are just trying to find stability nowadays, but we're way past that. So if you want stability, yeah, come around us, understand, have more conversation with us, but we're focused on advancement. And so to be able to help assist and support that, that's great because parents need that. Parents are stressed and more overwhelmed when they're taking on more responsibility, but the parents that are in the group, and this isn't a superiority, inferiority, we're better than you type of thing. If you're listening to this and you're not even a part of the community, or if you don't even have the tools, we're just letting you know that we've all been at that place. People in the community have all had terrible relationships, had arguments in relationships, drank, smoked, done drugs. Like, we've yelled at each other, we've yelled at ourselves, but the thing is, now we're past that, and we actually have the tools to work through that. And so now we're actually able to be the most effective versions of ourselves. And as the parents that are supporting the kids, like, parents are the future. People get it twisted and they say that kids are the future. They're not the future. Just because they were born after you, yeah, they're going to live longer probably, but you're the one who programs the child. So parents get that. And well, a lot of parents get that, now that they're seeing what we're doing and they're understanding the effect and seeing their children grow up because they said, oh, I'm just like my mom, I see and hear my mom or my dad within the words that I'm speaking. So they know that they're the one that's impacting the child. But for us to help make that clear, for us to help them see that more, and for us to help give them the tools to effectively parent their children, give them the tools to just grow as fast as possible, that's been awesome. And so to be able to give parents the ability to, like I mentioned before, to not be more stressed and more overwhelmed with the more responsibility you're taking on. Us within the group, we're taking on more responsibility, but we have less stress and we have less overwhelm because we're all able to process things so much more and see ourselves in real time. And that part has been life changing because we're able to do so much more, but be less stressed. And sometimes you could hear that. Maybe you hear it right now and you're like, what? How is that even possible? It's just just haven't experienced it yet. And so, yeah, so that's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to share.
That's awesome, man. Wow. Wow. On one of the self-perfected calls, you shared a few different stories. But you got some good stories, man. There's a one about your grandma. I think it's about your grandma.
Yeah.
There's a few, but are there any stories in particular, just kind of in light of the conversation, anything? Any stories you got for us? We all like a good story.
Mm, interesting. Okay. So our stability now as a couple is better than it's ever been. And I'll just tell a little bit about us, and yeah, it's kind of like a story, but we, Giselle and I were never stable when we first got together. And we were attracted to each other physically. We both were smoking weed. We both were just trying to be physically fit. We were both just trying to day trade and make millions of dollars and not take on any responsibilities. And we were helping people in town, we thought, with meditation events. And we'd play the sound bowls, and I'd sit there and roll the sound bowls, and she'd be doing the little rainmaker. And we were telling people about different events to go to. We went to a bunch of different events, whether it's like a Joe Dispenza meditation or a Bob Proctor event or Tony Robbins event. And we met great people there because people that want to, be better and improve themselves. But we realized that we never knew when the meditations were actually going to change us. We're like, okay, so I'm doing these affirmations, but when do these affirmations actually start working? Like, I'm feeling really good, man, but it's been months and months, and I'm still speaking on the same topic. And so we started to realize, you know what? Okay, what would I do if I had, okay, babe, we're going to play this game. We're going to spend some money. Okay. So we're going to spend $1 million. Okay. You're going to spend $1 million and I'm going to spend $1 million in our head. We're going to say what we're going to buy and things like that, what we would do. And so we started talking about what we would do. This is a good thing. If you're in a relationship, you can do this with your partner. Start off with, 10, 20 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand. And everything that was on our list had to do with buying a car, a house, going on vacation, or just something that was materialistic. And then we looked at, oh, Lord, look at this. Everything is based on what we didn't have as a kid.
Mm.
Everything was based on what we couldn't do as a kid. Giselle couldn't go places. Right? She was raised Jehovah's Witness. She couldn't go places. She couldn't celebrate 4th of July, even look out the window and see the fireworks because then you're participating in it. Right? The religion was holding her back. I mean, I went on a couple vacations as a kid, but I was never really able to go a lot of places because we didn't have a lot of money. And so we realized if we got a lot of money, we would relax. We would kick back. And a lot of people think, oh, there's no problem with that, right? So we kept playing the game. And we kept doing bigger vacations. We kept buying bigger homes. We kept buying more cars. We kept, doing bigger materialistic type of things. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with having a nice home. There's nothing wrong with if you need to get a new car, get a new car. But that was our starting point. Those were the things that we wanted. And it was to fill a void and a gap within us. So these were conversations that her and I had while we were playing these games and what we noticed, especially from being part of the group. We kept playing those games and we kept realizing this is very self-interest type of things that allow us to relax and not have to take any responsibility. And I spoke with Avery and he said, okay, what would you do if you sold, I think PayPal is what Elon Musk's first company that he exited successfully was.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, what would you do? Would you go on vacation? Would you relax? Yeah, I would. I would go on a big vacation for probably like a month or two. And he's like, and that's why you're not building the business of your dreams. Because as soon as you get some money, you would relax. As soon as you get some money, you would take less responsibility. And what did Elon Musk do? He poured it all back into 2 companies, SpaceX and Tesla. And so, and the story goes, he had to borrow money for rent, whatever the story is. But That's true. And that's that programming of, okay, I'm going to build a business that will be successful. I'm going to keep giving. And the thing that we were programmed to do was get the free stuff. Take all of the free samples at Sam's and Costco when you go there, and then go around twice. That's what my mom would do with me. We had a humongous international food store in Cincinnati. It's called Jungle Jim's. Humongous grocery store, like 4 times the size of any Sam's or Costco that you go to. It's huge. But dude, I'm telling you, it's huge. Look up Jungle Gyms
Shopping
right
mall.
now. Yes, literally. And so we would go there, and my mom would take me around the whole store twice on Saturdays so that she could feed me without paying for food,
Hmm.
right? Without paying for anything. And so the thing was, I was programmed with take all the free that you can get, take things for a bargain, take things for a deal, instead of building to where I could have whatever I wanted. But the main part is build so that then I can continue to build more and more and more and impact more and more. And my starting point was impact me, me. Give, get, or take. And I'm only going to give if I know that I'm going to get something back. And so what I realized with all this was my programming and our programming always being around money first is what held us back. And our programming around always doing things out of self interest was not best. And this whole concept of doing what's best for all, I was like, well, yeah, but I got to sacrifice myself for doing something else. Well, it's because I was raised in the Christian church and they said that Jesus did something for everybody, but he got killed, So I didn't want to do what was best for everybody because I'm thinking I'm going to die. And so what we realized with this whole, different stories, different parts was we weren't programmed to have a business. We weren't programmed to do what was best. We weren't programmed to actually have money. We were just programmed to consume money and get rid of money and spend money because people get more money, they owe and they spend more money. And so we weren't programmed to do the things that we wanted to do. We were just programmed to take and do things out of self-interest. And like Avery told me, that's probably why you're not building a business second to none, because you're just going to take a break when you get more instead of continuing to grow. And one thing he says was multimillionaires just don't stop because their feelings aren't attached. And a lot of times with people getting into a relationship, us in our relationship, me building a business for the first time, even day trading, all of it was just my money was impacting my emotions. Making an investment into a tool or a system or people or going to groups that cost money, I was always apprehensive of doing it because I was programmed that I never wanted to let go of money. I always had to hold on to my money. But money is like breath. You give, you receive. You give it out, and you receive it. So the main thing for me and what we've realized is that, like I mentioned earlier, we weren't programmed to do anything that we're trying to do. And so we had to take a hard look at ourselves and a hard look at what we were actually accepting and allowing and how it wasn't best. And so we just, took some steps to start to change that. Enough was enough. So that's
Wow.
my story.
And how did you build that? Like, I've noticed a trend. I've been having conversations with a lot of people recently, both locally and just through social media and everything. And there's like a pattern of guys that they want to change, they want to take more responsibility, but there's still kind of like a hope in it. And they
Mm,
know their discipline is messed up,
mm.
but they like don't know what to do. I mean, obviously we know the tools and everything is how they can get that. But from your perspective and your journey, how did you have the discipline to persevere? Because it's not an overnight change. It is a pretty efficient and quick change, but it's not overnight. So how did you develop that discipline?
I started, well, how did I develop the discipline? I started, and then I wanted to go further, and then I wanted to go further. Now, it wasn't this crazy type of mentality like I need more. But so when we started using these tools, I started seeing actual change and I started noticing that I wasn't getting triggered. I was a person that would get very triggered at the first ounce of sarcasm within an argument with my partner. And that's within all my relationships, but also it's with my dad. And I never met my dad until I was 27. I just turned 30 at the beginning of the month. And that's a whole nother story. But my dad does not accept that as well. And so I realized that was my programming. And
Mhm.
with Giselle, she had a few ounces of sarcasm within her. And so I would be very triggered and reactive. And this is not okay. And then with using the tools, very quickly, I started to just be okay with it and to assist and support her and actually have a conversation and actually give her the space and the environment to express herself effectively. And even no matter how she was going to express herself, I'm going to support her and I'm not going to participate. And I used to always participate. And then it would get to the point where I was participating more than the other person at the end of the conversation. And so, because of that, I wanted to see what else I could change. I wanted to see how else I could grow. I wanted to see what actually would work because all the other things weren't working. The meditations about I'm okay to have a relationship and to be one with my partner in communication and all these different things like I am peaceful when I communicate. I am peaceful when I communicate. I am peaceful when I communicate. And then like
I do not mind sarcasm.
you know, yeah, and then just and so the concept of go as far as you can see, and then when you get there, you'll see further. I actually started to go as far as I could see, and that's what I've noticed as a difference between, different guys like you mentioned. They're not willing to go as far as they can see, and so then they can never see further. But they want to see further, and they might try to get more information, but you're not applying what you already know to the nth degree, to where you actually get as far as you can go. And so I started to just go as far as I could see, and then I started to see further. And then my programming hit, and my ego wanted me to stop. And so I would let off the gas for a bit. But then it just became more and more obvious of what I was accepting and allowing. And the I don't know who said this in a quote. Actually, I heard Tim Grover say it. The price of discipline is high, but just wait until you see the bill for regret. Right? Like the price of discipline is high, right? But just wait until you get the bill for regret. That is something that I never want to face. And so I want to be able to continue to be disciplined within myself because it's going to be hard either way, right? It's going to be hard to be disciplined, but it's also going to be hard to look at what you can't do. It's going to be hard to look at your daughter, to look at your wife, to look at your future kids down the line and say, when they say, why didn't you do it? Now, maybe they might say that. Maybe they did. Maybe they won't. But to know within myself that I didn't do all that I could do, I'm not cool with that. And I've done that and I've been that person in my life before. And nope, I'm not going to be that person again. And decision is an action word. And when you decide to do something, you're not making a decision if you go back on it. You're not making a decision if you don't follow through with what you just said. A lot of people say, I'm going to decide to do something, typically on the first of the year. A lot of people are making decisions, right? But you're not making a decision because you're not actually following through with it. And so my self-worth got higher within me the more that I did. And so I started to respect myself more because I always felt I wasn't good enough. I wasn't worth enough because of my mom, because of my dad, a lot of stories. But now my self-worth is super high. And so now that I'm doing more, I respect myself more. My self-worth is more. And so I'm just going to continue and continue and continue to do more because I know, like you say, the more I do, the more I know that I can do, right? Right. The more I do, the more I can do. And so a lot of people just aren't willing to do in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause it's like, yeah, you broke through to the certain level where then you did get the reward of the self-esteem. Like, oh, cool, I can actually do this. Like, this makes sense. And then you just keep going and going. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like you alluded to as well, then sometimes you'll have that ego thing come up where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
hold on, buddy, you're changing too fast. And
Yeah.
you will justify some excuse. You'll be like, oh, yeah, if I go too fast, my company might get too big and the IRS might come after me or my taxes will be too high. So I better slow down.
Yeah.
I'm running at the risk of burnout. So I have to go on a vacation, right? Your ego will
Yeah.
fuck with you. It knows what's going on.
Totally.
But that's the part too. And that's why we have the group. That's why we have the tools, is because you
Totally.
can actually change that at the deepest level. So that
Yeah.
ego doesn't even come up with those thoughts.
Yeah, yeah. And
You laugh
something,
at it, you know?
yeah, no, seriously. And something also with the, like, the story kind of that I told earlier. The thing about it, the law of attraction and us being part of different groups and feeling good about it is, we've heard, if you've ever been a part of self development for more than like a month, typically you've heard that if you just think it like in your mind doesn't know the difference. Right. And so I was talking about Giselle and I were wanting to do different things and wanting to have different things and go to different places. And so if you were programmed, like Avery asked me, to go on a vacation, what would you do? Or excuse me, if you had $1 billion and billions, what would you do? I said, go on a vacation, relax. So if you're speaking and your mind doesn't know the difference, I'm a billionaire, I'm a multimillionaire, I'm a multi-billionaire business owner. If you're programmed to take a break and you're telling yourself that you're a billionaire, then that's probably why you're relaxing and not going as hard as possible because you feel like you already got it. Like literally, it's so simple. If your mind doesn't know the difference, but yet you're programmed to relax when you get all the money, and then if your mind doesn't know the difference and you say to your mind that you have all the money, then that's why you're probably not going balls to the wall every single day getting it done because you're not programmed for it. But people stand behind the law of attraction and it's like, what? It doesn't even make sense. But it's that I want to follow something. I need something new. This is the next best thing that feels good for me. And it's like, dude, doesn't work like that.
It's the energy trap, and it will never work. The energy trap will never work. If and you might meet people who are already pre-programmed for some success, and that's why they'll hype it up. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, love attraction's amazing. The energy is so good." But it's like if that person wanted to really change their outcome, they need to change the programming because they're only
Mm,
going to attract, quote unquote, attract what's already in their programming, their resonance.
mm,
So,
mm.
yeah, man. So earlier you were alluding to like backdoors
Okay.
in the context of relationships.
Yeah.
But in general, what would you say to someone listening to this who has maybe never heard of that idea of a backdoor? What advice would you give someone listening to this so that they can understand the idea of the backdoor and then uh, see how it's possible to not have a backdoor?
Sure. Yeah. So the back door, in my perspective, is similar to when you're in school. I got decent grades, but for the most part, I got bad grades. Like sometimes I had decent grades here and there, but for the most part, I did not get good grades. But I still graduated. I still got my diploma.
Mhm.
I still went to the next level, grade after grade after grade after grade. So people think that even if you don't do what you need to do, you can still go to the next level. Even if I don't get married, oh, it's okay. Like, we'll be fine. Or even if I cheat, like, no, it's okay. We'll still be fine. But they're never committed to actually doing their best because they know from school that if they don't do their best or if they don't commit, then everything will still be fine. So it's this perspective of I don't even have to commit to something and then everything will still be fine. So that's for me, my perspective on kind of like the back door, because if you're not willing to move forward, like if you're not growing, you're dying, right? And so you said the concept of the back door, and then what was the second part that you just said?
Oh, just for people who had not heard of the backdoor and like how people can actually learn from this and then, like you're saying, like make that real commitment.
Yeah. So, I mean, my dad would tell me that when you're in your car, which way are you typically facing? Forward. Okay. Well, how big is the windshield versus the rear view mirror? Right? The rear view mirror is a lot smaller. So you need to be focused forward. Yeah, you need to know where you came from and you need to know what's back there to have in reference when you're moving forward. But you need to primarily focus on moving forward. And you need to primarily focus on where you're going and where you're going to and know where you're at. And if you're not able to continually progress forward and know where you want to go, then I mean, what are you in it for? And like like you mentioned before, it's like you're abusing somebody. Like, why are you using them? Like, in abuse is use, USE, ABUSE, right? ABUS, so us, we abuse, right? Because we've been abused. And so my dad would also say that when you go to a mall and you're trying to find a store, okay, you find the store, but then the next thing on the map that you find is the "you are here." And so then you can figure out how you're going to get to the store. Why are you going to the mall in the first place? Because you're trying to go to a destination. But people in their life, they have no destination. So that's why they think, okay, I don't have to follow this path. I can just go wherever I want. I can go out the back door. I can go forward. I can go to the side. I can do whatever because they don't really have a plan. So, like, for my thing is, what's your end goal? We know that we want to have a great relationship. We know that we want to have a very successful business. We know that we want to have an impact across the world. We know that we want to do a lot of different things, but a back door just isn't a part of it because we were only taught primarily to think about us, survive for yourself, take care of you. But now, since we're thinking of more than just us, we don't have a back door. And so a lot of people that have a back door are very self-interested and are very just focused on what they want only. And your partner can give you anything that you can get from anybody else. Work through that. And so, yeah, even within a business, your business can give you anything you want if you're actually committed to it. So, for people that are watching that got the tools, run the word commitment and just look at your attachment and association to being committed to something. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Great. Well, any other words of wisdom for people for now? What can someone do? I mean, we know that people can listen to this and it's
Mhm.
only going to get so deep. They still got the pre-programming, they still got all that stuff in there. So that's really where the tools come in and the groups come in. But
Mhm.
I guess what would you say to someone who's listening to this? Some words of wisdom or some suggestions of what people could do who actually really want to be that best version of themselves.
Yeah. You don't know what you don't know. And it's easier to not know than to know. Neo took the pill in the Matrix. People know about that, right? But people aren't willing to do that because it's easier to be in the Matrix. It's easier to not live your best life. It's easier to not go to the gym. It's easier to not, but it's always going to be harder, or it's always going to be hard either way. And it's going to be harder for you to not live your best life at the end of it. So, like I said, or like Tim Grover said, it's like discipline is hard and doing it is hard, but the bill for regret incomparably higher than the discipline. And if you want a legacy, come on, you're going to have to grow. You're going to have to be in relationship. You're going to have to grow yourself. You're going to have to be willing to take more on. And this party life, not taking responsibility, just kicking back, buying cars and doing all of that, like it gets very, very old. And I'll end it with this. There's a gentleman, he's crushing it as far as income is concerned, making like 2-3 million a month, being a fitness coach on Instagram. And I was watching a clip of one of the interviews he had, and he was talking about how one of his clients said, "Damn," said his name, I'll leave it out. "I want the bank account you have. Man, you're crushing it." He was like, "Look, man, like you can want my bank account, but I want your family." Because the dude's single, he's not married, he's got multiple mansions, all the supercars that you want. And he's like, "Look, man, I want your family." And his client was like, "Damn, that's different. Okay, you really put it in perspective." And so it's like we have everything a rich man would want, because once you get rich, what are you really gonna want? Like, what are you actually gonna want? Health, wellness, a great community, support, the ability to not have the stress and traumas from a young age. You're gonna want to be able to communicate effectively with other people, continue to grow, and just have a great community, not to network with online and whatnot, but we're actually in person, and then actually where you live for your kids to play with, to build business with other guys, other women that are effective that can be with your woman, and everybody just be in a great space together. And so the whole standpoint of I want a Lambo and I want to have, all these houses, like, come on, that's such a shallow vision and you're just doing it for the money. But when you're doing it to actually create something of meaning and you're doing it to impact more people, you're going to have much more value and purpose within your life. So, yeah, just don't get
Bam.
caught up. Don't get caught up.
Well said. Well said. I love that quote. The price of discipline is high. but the cost of regret is way higher. So, um, well, thanks for being on. And if people want to follow you or find you, what's your IG handle? Is it at ATM Austin?
Yeah, so it's atm.austin.
ATM.Austin or Austin Hale on Facebook. I'll link to his stuff in the comments here or in the description. And then I know you'll be on more, and it's just going to be really cool to see, man, because everything you're doing, like you can see where things are headed, and I mean, it's unstoppable what we're doing, and now it's just more people join us. So
Yeah,
cool.
most
All right,
definitely. Yeah,
thanks.
of
See you
course.
soon.